The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen. We begin with breaking news from overnight out of southwest Bakersfield. At least one person's dead following a crash that sent a car plunging into a canal. You can see the car almost fully submerged in water there with a rescuer climbing on top. This is near H and Berkshire. You can also see the car went through the fence and damaged another vehicle. We're still waiting to hear back from investigators for an official word on what happened. But first responders did appear to be performing CPR on a body before putting a blanket over it. Also happening overnight, a house fire in central Bakersfield. It erupted shortly after 1 a.m. on Park Way. Crews were able to douse the fire in a little under an hour, and we're waiting to hear back from crews about what caused this blaze or if anyone was hurt. Across the country and the county, people celebrated our newest federal holiday yesterday. Here locally, there were festivities in honor of Juneteenth. 17 Cecilia Trevino spoke with residents about what the holiday means to them.
In California's Central Valley, Bakersfield is home to only 7% Black or African American people, according to the 2021 census. But when it comes to celebrating Juneteenth, some say this is just the starting point for great things to come.
I think the population is growing. I think there are more and more people that are embracing the city of Bakersfield, people coming from different places. I think the city is growing.
The Glitz Cafe was the spot for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, to host their Juneteenth brunch, kicking off the day with many coming together to celebrate the federal holiday. Organizers of the event say while the date is filled with support and pride, there's still much to do.
Just in my own place of employment, there's so many people that just had no idea what Juneteenth was, what it meant, what it symbolized. It's something that is not taught in the school system, and it's very unfortunate because it is a huge part of this country's history. It's a huge fabric of who we are as Black Americans, and we are in every facet of everyone's life, so it's important that everyone knows what Juneteenth is and what it means.
The city of Bakersfield also made a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth.
Making headlines around the nation, the Supreme Court's expected to decide on several significant and controversial cases in the coming weeks. They include rulings on affirmative action, LGBTQ rights, and President Biden's student loan forgiveness program. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington.
From college admissions to LGBTQ rights, the Supreme Court is poised to weigh in on some of its most divisive cases by the end of July.
Last year, the Dobbs opinion, which overruled Roe versus Wade, was decided on June 25th, so well toward the end of the term. So this is all business as usual.
The future of President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is on the line, a decision that could impact the financial futures of 40 million Americans.
This is about economic mobility, being able to move forward in society as a multiracial democracy.
We're also awaiting a key decision on affirmative action. Justices will decide the legality of race-conscious policies many universities and colleges use to admit students.
Race alone doesn't account for why someone's admitted or not.
I've heard the word diversity quite a few times, and I don't have a clue what it means.
The court, with its 6-3 conservative majority, is expected to rule on a major case concerning LGBTQ rights after a Christian web designer refused to provide services to same-sex couples.
And the question is, can a website designer say, sorry, that's not my kind of marriage?
This is not a hotel. This is not a restaurant. This is not a riverboat or a train. I'm interested in the intersection of public accommodations law and speech.
The public is watching and waiting to see how the High Court rules. And the rulings this week come as the nation marks the one-year anniversary of the conservative court's overturning of Roe versus Wade and the legal right to an abortion. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Turning now to a crash that took out a big section of an office building in northwest Bakersfield. Check out the aftermath. This happened on Callaway Drive last night. Police say the driver went up over a median and the sidewalk before plowing her SUV into an office of a physical therapy company. Investigators say it appears the driver may have suffered a medical emergency behind the wheel leading up to that crash. And in Kernville, a similar scene yesterday afternoon. Here, a car rolled down an embankment and crashed into a home. These are pictures from the Kern County Fire Department. First responders had to use the jaws of life to get the driver out. The driver suffered what are described as moderate injuries. No one else was hurt. The cause of the crash is under investigation. All right, 17 News is your local election headquarters. The race for president came to California yesterday. On the Democratic side, President Joe Biden arrived to push the message on climate change while raising money for his 2024 bid. While the man who hopes to defeat Biden, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, made steps to fundraise and meet with donors here in California as well. Capitol correspondent Etan Wallace reports.
Well, on policy for President Biden, this trip is about climate investments, and for Governor DeSantis, it's about urging new leadership. But both are here to raise money. Off Air Force One, President Joe Biden officially arrived in the Golden State for the start of a two-day trip focusing on environmental policy and fundraising for the 2024 election. Among those who greeted the president at Moffett Federal Airfield in Santa Clara County, Governor Gavin Newsom. The two traveled to the Lucy Evans Baylands Nature Interpretive Center and Preserve in Palo Alto, where the president announced a $600 million initiative to launch a new climate adaptation effort.
We're taking the most aggressive climate action ever.
The just-announced plan, per the president, will invest in projects to mitigate climate change impacts along coastal communities, impacts like sea level rise, tidal flooding, and storm surge.
Which means communities can better withstand the impacts of climate change and extreme weather.
It's a plan Governor Gavin Newsom fully supports.
There's simply no president in modern American history that's done more to deliver on the promise of addressing head-on the issue of climate change than President Joe Biden.
And while Newsom and Biden were together in the Bay Area,
rising crime in San Francisco.
Needles and feces outside.
The Ron DeSantis for President campaign launched this ad against Governor Newsom and Democratic leaders just hours ahead of DeSantis' own California campaign fundraising stop. He held private events in California's greater Sacramento and Central Valley regions.
It was very refreshing.
GOP Assemblymember Tom Lackey attended the DeSantis fundraiser, all taking place just weeks after the Florida governor and California governor traded public jabs after Florida sent 2 planes of migrants to Sacramento. That led Newsom to refer to DeSantis as a, quote, small, pathetic man. But Lackey argues after meeting the presidential hopeful, he believes DeSantis has been unfairly mischaracterized.
In unity, he believes that that is something that the country needs, that he has provided, and that he will continue to demonstrate that he has the ability to bring people together by good public policy.
California Republican Party Chairwoman Jessica Milan Patterson says to expect more Republican presidential candidates to visit the Golden State ahead of the March primary.
All of these Republican candidates have the opportunity to make their case to California voters as to why their leadership would be better than what we've been seeing coming out of the White House. We're at a 40-year high inflation. We used to be energy independent. These are all things that the next president of the United States can fix because President Biden has made it very clear he is not up to the task.
And a DeSantis campaign spokesperson tells me that's it for him on this trip to California, but adds the Florida governor hopes to be back here pretty soon. And as for the president, well, he had 2 campaign fundraisers and has more in the Bay Area. Reporting from Sacramento, Etan Wallace, 17 News.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.